Hi there, I'm Vic V. I'm an ENT surgeon working for the NHS in England. And what I'd like to do is tell you all about something known as EPAP, which is expiratory positive airway pressure. It sounds very grand, but really it's a nasal dilator with a one-way valve in it. And I'll show you what I mean. This is the version I have, which is called Zeepap. It's by the same people that made INAP in Taiwan. They're very nice and they've given me a version of this. I'm not sure if it's available in the UK. I've held on to this for a really long time, waiting for them to make it available in the UK, but I think it's only available in the US. And you can see it's a nasal dilator like most of the other ones are. If you look down the middle, you'll see there might be a one-way valve in there. It's quite hard to see. And the reason why you might use it is that you're trying to stop your nose from collapsing. So if you look at my nose here, you see that your nose collapses in like that. So this stops that from happening by keeping your nose open. And I have a video on nasal dilators, and now I can breathe in much easier. The difference is that it has a valve in it that stops you from breathing out quite as easily. So when you try and breathe out, you can just about feel a little bit of pressure in your airways. That can help with snoring and it can help with mild obstructive sleep apnea, sometimes even more severe sleep apnea. I'm just going to take this thing out of my nose, sorry. Now, in trials, it does seem to help people with obstructive sleep apnea by bringing down the AHI from about 52 to 42%, particularly after 3 months or so. And there was another trial done on the Bongo RX or some other device, which is roughly the same. And that brought it down from about 41 to 31%. It does improve matters. It doesn't fix it altogether, but it is much better for people who really can't tolerate a CPAP device. Now, it doesn't work on everyone, as you can imagine. There are lots of different reasons for having obstructive sleep apnea. Your tongue could be falling back, where this doesn't work very well for those sorts of people. It works very well for people with a sidewall collapse, but it can also help with people with palate problems. It keeps the palate pushed forward because of the airway pressure. And I don't think it's great for people who can't breathe through their nose very well, because if you're a mouth breather, then pinching your nose or opening up your nose is not going to make much difference. You have to fix the nose first. And as I've said in other videos, there are lots of reasons for nasal breathing problems. It could be that your nose is collapsing, a bit like mine, like this with the nose collapsing in that way. You could have a big sort of swollen lining of your nose, typically around the turbinate area. So you have to shrink those down. And that's why steroid sprays or turbinate surgery works very well for that. It could be that this middle part of your nose, the septum, is twisted like this. So you could be like this and you can't breathe through one side. It could also be because of polyps and adenoids and all sorts of other things that could be blocking your nose. So getting your nose fixed before you use one of these devices, because you need to be constantly breathing in and out through your nose. Otherwise, you're just breathing in and out through your mouth. And this device will therefore never work. I very much doubt also that people with very severe obstructive sleep apnea will often breathe through their nose purely because they're trying to get air in and out. For example, if I made you run around the street several times until your oxygen levels were dropping, it's very hard to do that. But you're not going to go once you've done a huge run. You open your mouth and trying to get the air in because you're starving of oxygen. Your oxygen levels have dropped down below 92 or something like that. And you're trying to be able to breathe. You're not going to try and breathe through your nose, which is often a lot harder. To get more air in and out, you breathe through your mouth. And in the situation of people with obstructive sleep apnea, particularly when it's very severe, your oxygen levels can drop down to 80, 70, 60%. It's really bad at that level. You go blue at about 85% oxygen. So clearly it's a bit like being strangled. You need to be able to breathe, and people will go try and breathe through their mouth just to get the air in. So in those situations, you don't really use your nose very much to breathe through with obstructive sleep apnea. So these won't work very well for very severe people. But as I said, for mild people, it may help, depending on what type of sleep apnea problem you have. I keep talking about what different type. I know I've bang on about this on my channel a lot. Drug-induced sleep endoscopy is a way to work out why you have a problem, not a sleep study, which tells you how bad you are, which is the monitor that you wear at night. A drug-induced sleep endoscopy helps you work out where in your throat the problem is. So you can target the areas that are causing your problem so you can know how to fix it afterwards. You can look at my channel and find out details about that. I won't go in for that again. This EPAP device helps you breathe in by stopping your nose from collapsing in and stops you from snoring by keeping the airway forward and open up as well. So it doesn't just sort of collapse back and start fluttering around because of it. As I said, also it does help with obstructive sleep apnea to a small degree, but it's not perfect for that. It's more for the mild end of the scale. There are studies that show that if you have a tongue-based problem, it may be useful to use a mandibular advancement device, a gum shield that brings your jaw forward like this to pull the tongue out the way. And then this deals with the rest of the problems in there. So some people have an INAP or a tongue retaining device or a mandibular advancement device. All of these things work on tongues really well, but they're not good at the rest of the throat. So this might help people who still snore with a mandibular advancement device or still snore with a tongue retaining or an INAP device. It works very well in that situation. And there are studies that show that the combination of a tongue device as well as one of these seems to work quite well. As you can imagine, there's an awful lot of paraphernalia in the face now. It's getting more and more difficult, and people are trying to get away from the whole CPAP or nasal mask in your face because they don't want all this stuff on their face. It can feel quite claustrophobic. But considering the different options, which is implants and surgery by people like me, it may be better than some of those rather more invasive options. So if you're trying to avoid all of that stuff and see people like me, maybe this might be a good idea with or without a mandibular advancement device. One thing I should say that if you're going to get a mandibular advancement device, do try and see a proper sleep dentist. You can make a customized fit and give you a realigner in the morning, someone that can make sure that you don't damage your jaw, loosen your teeth, and damage the bite pattern inside your throat. All of these things are really important, need to be done by experienced dentists who are interested in sleep medicine. I hope you found that useful. Do take care. Bye-bye.